What's up, everybody? Damon here, and in today's gaming news, Phil Spencer addresses the disastrous launch of Redfall, but assures us Starfield will be better. Also, a former BioWare writer claims the developer was actively trying to cut stories from its games. This is your Daily Fix. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has addressed the significant negative response to Redfall, the co-op vampire-slaying FPS that recently launched to a large number of negative reviews and player disappointment. Talking to the Kinda Funny Xcast, Spencer said that he is upset with himself and that he's, quote, gonna take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great. While he acknowledged the disappointment that comes from a $70 game arriving in the condition Redfall has, he also offers support for the game's developers at Arcane Austin, noting that he will not, quote, push against the creative aspirations of our teams. When asked for his initial response to the launch of Redfall, which dropped as an Xbox console exclusive this week, Spencer said, "There's nothing that's more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community, and just kind of watch the community lose confidence and be disappointed. I'm disappointed, I'm upset with myself. I kind of revisit our process. I think back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, then we weren't shipping 60 frames per second. That was our punch on the chin, rightfully, a couple of weeks ago." Now, Spencer did maintain a somewhat defensive attitude for his team at Xbox Game Studios. He explained, "One thing I'll fight is the idea of what went wrong. There's clearly quality and execution things we can do, but one thing I won't do is push against the creative aspirations of our teams. I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Austin. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of the great games they've built. This is one where the team didn't hit their own internal goals when it launched. I think it's maybe a little simplistic to just say, hey, if you would have just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different to what it was." As for Redfall's future, Spencer said that Xbox, Bethesda, and Arcane Austin intend to continue working on improving the game, starting with the promised 60 frames per second patch. He said, "We have a good timeline for that, and we're committed to getting that done. And we're going to continue to work the game. We've shown a commitment to games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded to continue and go and build games. We let a lot of people down this week with the launch of the game, but we will continue to strive on. You have to. That's what creativity is about." IGN's final Redfall review is up now, and we gave it a 4 out of 10. It's definitely the most disastrous first-party game launch in recent memory. Xbox gamers have been waiting years for big exclusive games, and I have to imagine their patience is exhausted. And their confidence that Xbox can deliver big, polished AAA games like their competitors can might justifiably be in doubt. And then there's Starfield. Now that Redfall is a certified dud, Starfield couldn't be more important for Xbox. Everything is riding on it. Starfield has to be an amazing 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10 game at launch, nothing less. Phil Spencer has offered some kind of reassurance to fans that Starfield will hopefully launch in a better state than Redfall, claiming that the publisher did a better job in terms of assisting development. Again, on the Kinda Funny Xcast, Spencer explained how the acquisition of a studio that is midway through development of a game, as it did with both Bethesda Game Studios and Arcane Austin, working on Starfield and Redfall respectively, can be a challenge and that Xbox needs to improve its process. He said, "When we acquire studios, there are games that are in development, and then there's things that are either really early in development or not even conceived yet. I think we need to improve in engaging with games that are midway through production when they become part of Xbox. We didn't do a good job early on in engaging Arcane Austin to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources to help them move along that journey even faster. We left them to work on the game." Nonetheless, Spencer says we should have been there for Arcane studio director Harvey Smith and the team earlier. I think that's on us. And then through the process, it's an Unreal game. We have a bunch of studios that have done some really great work on Unreal over the years, and I think we were too late to help in that when they had certain issues. Now, regardless of how involved Xbox has been in the development of Starfield, you best believe they are stepping in right now. It's supposed to be out September 6th, just 4 months away, and it has to be a perfect landing. If it's yet another disaster like Redfall, I think we have to start calling Xbox's future into question. Moving along, David Gator, who was a narrative lead for Dragon Age before leaving BioWare in 2016, said in a recent Twitter thread that writers at the developer became quietly resented and were seen as an albatross. Gator posted the tweets just as film and television writers went on strike earlier this week, demanding better pay structures and improved working conditions from Hollywood studios. Talking about writing broadly, Gator said it's a discipline that's constantly undervalued. He wrote, "Even BioWare, which built its success on a reputation for good stories and characters, slowly turned from a company that vocally valued its writers to one where we were quietly resented, with a reliance on expensive narratives seen as the albatross holding the company back." Maybe that sounds like a heavy charge, but it's what I distinctly felt up until I left in 2016. Suddenly, all anyone in charge was asking was, how do we have less writing? A good story would simply happen via magic wand, rather than be something that needed support and priority. Gator was with BioWare for 17 years before he left, and his narrative footprint on the company is an undeniably large one. He served as lead writer for Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Inquisition, and is credited with the creation of the world in which the game series takes place. Prior to Dragon Age, Gator also worked on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Baldur's Gate 2. He's currently working on a new narrative RPG for Summerfall Games' Stray Gods. Now, we can see evidence of what Gator is claiming by looking at BioWare's track record. After Dragon Age Inquisition, it was set to deliver something very different for the developer, the 4v1 action RPG Shadow Realms. It would end up being cancelled before it was released. Then there was Mass Effect Andromeda, which, is not remembered as favorably as the previous trilogy. Following that was the spectacular failure Anthem. So yeah, I can see BioWare actively de-emphasizing story in its games. The next Dragon Age, Dreadwolf, is still awaiting a release date. Hopefully it can be a return to form for the developer. And finally today, Pokemon Go developer Niantic has refuted claims that April saw the game accrue its worst monthly revenue total in 5 years as fans protest changes to the game's raid system. A Niantic spokesperson said in an email to Eurogamer, "We generally don't comment on third-party estimates of our revenue as they are often incorrect, which is the case here. Our revenue so far in 2023 is up on last year." Okay, but the claim was that revenue was especially low in April. It's possible that could be true, and yet Niantic is still seeing revenue up for 2023 in total, even if very slightly. It's also worth noting that the outlet reporting the dip in revenue, mobilegamer.biz, is a very reputable site. MobileGamer claimed that Pokemon Go's revenue had slumped from $42 million in March down to just $34.7 million in the month of April, representing the app's lowest monthly revenue since February 2018. News of the alleged decline and Niantic's rebuttal comes as Pokemon Go fans rail against changes made to the app's raid system. Previously, the social distancing and lockdown procedures brought in to combat the COVID-19 pandemic pushed Niantic into creating remote play features for its game that allowed gamers to attend raids from the safety of their homes. The feature was a boon to many in the community who lived in remote areas or had disabilities that prevented easy travel. However, Niantic recently announced that from April 6th, it was hiking its remote raid pass prices and putting a cap on the number of the in-game events that players could attend each day. The move, which was seemingly in an attempt to force players to return to pre-pandemic gameplay norms, angered many in the community, leading to this backlash. And that is your Daily Fix for Thursday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Now that you're caught up on the news, watch our final review of Redfall. I'm Damon Hatfield, and for all your gaming news, stay tuned to IGN.